I want you to imagine something just for a second. Imagine spending your entire life chasing wealth.
Right.
You know, you are grinding, you're hustling, you sacrifice your weekends, your relationships, maybe even your health. And you actually pull it off.
Yeah, you hit the jackpot.
Exactly. You finally get the big house, the cars, the massive bank account you always dreamed of. And then you wake up one morning, look around at your empire, and realize you are absolutely, completely miserable.
It's the ultimate hollow victory.
Yeah.
You essentially win the game, but the prize feels completely empty, and you realize you spent your one and only life building a prison out of gold.
And that is the exact tension we are tackling today. We're doing a deep dive into a classic book, but maybe not the one you're immediately thinking of. We
Wow.
are unpacking Grow Rich with Peace of Mind by Napoleon Hill.
Such an incredible text.
It really is. Our mission today is to extract the ultimate blueprint from this book for achieving massive financial success without, losing your soul or your sanity in the process.
Which is such a fascinating thing to study, primarily because of who Napoleon Hill was at the exact moment he wrote it.
Right, because most people know him for something else.
Exactly. The vast majority of people know him for his absolute juggernaut of a bestseller, Think and Grow Rich. But he wrote that book decades earlier.
Right.
He wrote this book, Grow Rich, with peace of mind when he was 84 years old.
84. Wow. So he's looking back at an entire lifetime of actually applying these principles?
Yes, and it was a lifetime of wild extremes. I mean, this is a man who had made a massive fortune, lived in a sprawling estate in the Catskill Mountains, had Rolls Royces sitting in the garage.
The ultimate dream.
Right, and then he lost virtually all of it in the Great Depression of 1929.
Ouch.
At one point, he even had to go into hiding because a business partner had gotten entangled with gang violence.
Wait, really? He went into hiding from gangsters?
Yeah, he had to completely disappear for a while.
I knew he was successful, but I had no idea his life went that far off the rails after his initial success.
Oh, he lived an incredibly turbulent life.
Mm-hmm.
So by 84, he was significantly wiser, definitely somewhat humbled, and he'd come to this profound realization
Which was?
that money without peace of mind is a trap. It just becomes a millstone around your neck.
Yeah.
He wanted to write a book that helped people avoid the very mistakes he had made when he was younger and, purely driven by accumulation.
So to really understand how Hill connects these dots, let's seamlessly shift into audiobook mode.
Love it.
Let's break down the book's core concepts step by step. And I want to start with the foundational thesis he introduces right away, which he calls the supreme secret.
Right. It's the supreme secret, which is simply anything the human mind can believe, the human mind can achieve.
Okay, it sounds great, almost like the ultimate bumper sticker, but the skepticism kicks in immediately for me.
Sure. Sounds a bit cliche today.
Yeah, exactly. How does a person actually operationalize a phrase like that in real life?
Well, Hill anticipates that exact skepticism. He argues that you cannot achieve anything until you take total possession of your own mind. And to do that, you have to bypass your conscious thoughts and reprogram what he refers to as the subconscious boss.
The subconscious boss. So what is that exactly?
Your subconscious mind is essentially the hidden operator of your life. Like, your conscious mind thinks it is in the driver's seat making logical decisions, but your subconscious is constantly feeding it underlying instructions.
I want to understand the mechanism there. If my conscious goal is, say, to start a business, how is my subconscious stopping me?
It really comes down to hidden biological and psychological fears.
Like what?
Well, if your subconscious is secretly terrified of failure or deeply afraid of poverty, it won't just tell you, hey, I'm scared.
Right, that would be too easy.
Exactly. Instead, it will feed your conscious mind a stream of highly rational-sounding excuses to prevent you from taking the necessary risks.
Oh, wow. So you'll suddenly decide the market isn't right, or you need to do 3 more months of research.
Yes. Or you'll accidentally double book a crucial investor meeting. It self-sabotages to keep you in the safe zone.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's like your mind is an exclusive nightclub, and you need to hire a massive bouncer for the front door so only the VIP thoughts get in.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize it. It's protecting the club from bad influences.
Right. It's flagging massive opportunities and marking them as danger because it hasn't been trained to recognize what a good opportunity looks like.
Spot on. It is actively filtering out your success. And to fix this, Hill suggests building what he calls spiritual defenses.
Spiritual defenses. How does that fit with the bouncer analogy?
Well, he asks the reader to visualize their mind as a medieval castle. You have an outer wall, an inner wall, and at the very center you have the impenetrable tower.
So the outer walls are the bouncers.
Exactly. The outer walls are designed to block out negative influences, critics, and energy drainers in your environment.
Yeah.
You only let people over that wall if they bring value or positive purpose.
And what about the inner keep?
That inner keep is reserved entirely for you. It's an internal sanctuary you can retreat to, even for just a few seconds, while standing in a crowded, stressful room.
Just to tune out the noise.
Right, to tune out the noise and reaffirm your own self-confidence.
Okay, so the castle walls are your external firewall blocking the obvious junk. But how do you rewrite the internal algorithm? How do you train that hidden boss to stop fearing risk?
This is where his technique of auto-suggestion comes in. And Hill is highly prescriptive about this part.
Meaning you can't just vaguely wish for things.
Exactly. Vaguely wishing for wealth does absolutely nothing. You have to find a quiet place, write down the exact amount of money you intend to make, and set a hard time limit.
Very specific.
Highly specific.
Okay.
And most crucially, you must write down exactly what service or product you intend to give in return for that money.
So there's no concept of getting something for nothing in his universe.
None at all. There has to be a concrete exchange of value.
Okay, so you write this very detailed contract with yourself. Then what?
Once you have that statement, you read it aloud to yourself every single morning when you wake up and every night before you go to sleep.
Just reading it is enough.
Well, no, and that's the catch. The key mechanism, the thing that actually rewrites the algorithm, is emotion.
Emotion.
Yes, you have to read it while generating genuine feeling. The subconscious mind does not respond to cold logic or sterile words on a page.
It needs to feel real.
Exactly. It responds to emotional intensity. By repeatedly injecting this goal into your mind with high emotion, you force the subconscious to accept it as a reality.
Which shifts its focus from hunting for threats to hunting for opportunities.
You got it.
I follow the logic there. If you reprogram the filter, you start seeing the world differently. But let's introduce a complication here.
Okay, what's that?
What if the firewall failed years ago? What happens when you have a whole history of massive failures, bankruptcies, and, bad experiences already living inside the keep of your mind?
Hill addresses this head-on. He calls it leaving the graveyard of unpleasant experiences behind.
The graveyard of unpleasant experiences. That's a heavy phrase.
It is. And it relies on a rule that serves as the backbone of the entire book, which is that every adversity has within it the seed of an equivalent or a greater benefit.
Okay, I have to push back on that on behalf of anyone listening who is going through a disaster right now.
Fair enough.
When you lose your business or face a massive personal tragedy, someone telling you to look for the seed of benefit borders on, toxic positivity. How does he justify that?
He justifies it with brutal personal experience. He doesn't offer it as a platitude, He offers it as a survival mechanism.
Give me an example from his life.
Well, when Hill was a young, incredibly poor boy living in rural Virginia, he actually won a horse in a local raffle.
Wow, a horse in that time and place must have been a huge deal.
A life-changing asset. But he didn't know how to care for it. He overfed the horse, it got terribly bloated, and it died.
Oh, no. That is devastating.
It was. And worse, it cost him $5 money he desperately needed just to pay someone to haul the carcass away.
That is a crushing blow for a kid with absolutely nothing.
A total disaster.
Yeah.
But looking back decades later, he realized that specific trauma completely cured him of any desire to gamble or look for easy money.
Oh, I see.
He recognized that losing that horse early on saved him from what likely would have been a lifetime of ruinous gambling debts.
So he applies this same retrospective lens to losing his massive Catskill estate later in life.
Exactly.
How does losing an estate and a fleet of Rolls-Royces possibly become a benefit?
Because he realized that kind of ostentatious wealth was creating constant anxiety.
Yeah?
Managing the staff, the overhead, the public perception, it was pulling him away from his actual purpose.
So losing it forced a reset.
Yes, it freed him to focus purely on writing and teaching, which is where his true legacy lived.
Yeah.
And he connects this to the law of compensation, a concept he borrows heavily from Ralph Waldo Emerson.
The law of compensation, that's the idea that every act rewards or punishes itself eventually, right?
Precisely. The universe operates on an eternal ledger. If you give freely of your talents and service, the universe eventually balances the books and pays you back.
Does Hill give a concrete example of this happening to him?
He does. He tells a story about a time he was giving free lectures on his success philosophy at a cafeteria in Atlanta.
Free lectures?
Yeah, he wasn't getting paid a single dime. He was just pouring his energy into helping the people who showed up.
And the universe balanced the ledger.
It did. An executive from a major power company happened to be eating lunch and heard him speak. That executive then hired him for a paid speaking gig.
Nice.
And at that gig, Hill met a college president who introduced him to a woman who eventually became his wife and his lifelong business partner.
Wow.
The law of compensation was humming in the background the entire time, turning a free cafeteria speech into a lifelong partnership.
Here's where it gets really interesting but also tough. It's easy to say close the door when things are going well, but when you've just lost everything, how do you actually do that?
It's incredibly difficult.
Right. If you're sitting in the ashes of your career, totally broke, the instinct is to panic and hoard whatever resources you have left.
Exactly.
But based on the book's logic, you do it by actively shifting your focus to how you can serve someone else right now. How do you pivot to giving free lectures at a cafeteria when you're broke?
You do it because it is the only way out of what Hill calls the jungle of life.
The jungle of lives.
Yeah. When you are panicking, you are feeding the internal enemies that destroy your peace of mind. By forcing yourself to focus on serving someone else, even in a small way, you interrupt the panic cycle.
Oh, that makes so much sense. You cannot be obsessed with your own ruin while actively trying to solve someone else's problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Service is the mechanism that starves your internal fears.
And Hill outlines exactly what those internal fears are, doesn't he?
He does. He categorizes them into 7 basic fears:
What are they?
poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, loss of liberty, old age, and death.
That covers just about everything.
It really does. And he describes the act of dwelling on these fears with a phrase that is just incredibly striking. He calls it prayer in reverse.
Prayer in reverse. That sounds incredibly woo-woo. Are we talking about some mystical law of attraction where bad thoughts magically summon bad events?
It sounds like it, but it's actually deeply rooted in cognitive psychology, though Hill obviously uses dramatic language.
Okay, explain the psychology part.
Think about the mechanism of focus. When you are terrified of poverty, you dedicate all of your cognitive bandwidth to the concept of lack. You become overly risk-averse.
Right.
You project desperation in job interviews. You miss collaborative opportunities because you view everyone as a competitor for scarce resources.
So you aren't magically summoning poverty.
Exactly. Your obsessive fear of it is dictating behaviors that actively generate poverty. You are orchestrating the exact outcome you're terrified of.
So by constantly worrying about being broke, I am literally coding my brain's spam filter to only recognize actions that keep me broke.
That is the exact mechanism.
Wow.
Now, to clear up these fears, Hill introduces a framework that comes from one of the most bizarre and fascinating moments in the entire book.
Oh, let's get into it. This is the moment with the typewriter, right?
Yes. So, Hill describes sitting alone at his typewriter, musing on the complexities of human nature, when he suddenly experiences this compulsion, like a form of automatic writing.
Okay.
He claims to hear a literal voice, and this voice tells him it represents the great school of the masters, a secret, ancient council of wisdom located somewhere in the Himalayas.
Okay, stop right there. Ancient Himalayan masters dictating secrets through a typewriter in the middle of the night.
I know.
For a lot of highly analytical listeners, this is the exact moment they check out and write the whole book off as fiction.
And I completely understand that reaction.
Ah.
It is a massive tonal shift from the practical business advice.
So how do we interpret this?
Well, whether you view this as a literal supernatural event or, what is far more likely, Hill tapping so deeply into his own subconscious that his lifelong synthesis of human psychology manifested as an externalized voice.
Right, either way.
Right. We need to look at the output of that experience.
Okay, let's judge the tool, not the origin story. What did the typewriter masters actually tell him?
The voice dictated a list of 26 distinct enemies that haunt the mind. We are talking about highly specific internal adversaries.
Like what?
Fear, greed, worry, hypochondria, jealousy, revenge, deceit, things like that.
Okay.
The voice tells him that whoever systematically conquers these 26 enemies will master the jungle of life.
It's a hit list. He essentially created a bounty board for his own psychological flaws.
Yes, and he turns it into a rigorous system. He instructs the reader to write these 26 enemies down and make a physical chart.
A physical chart.
Yeah. Then, at least once a year, you must conduct a ruthless self-audit. You look at that list and you ask yourself, have I genuinely stopped seeking revenge? Have I conquered my hypochondria?
Wow, that's intense.
You only cross them off when they no longer control your actions. It takes abstract, floating anxieties and turns them into a tangible, measurable checklist for personal growth.
I actually love that, because if you just say, oh, I want to be a better person, you have no metrics.
Exactly.
But if you ask, did I let jealousy dictate my reaction in yesterday's meeting, You have a binary yes or no.
Right, it's actionable.
But beyond just being a morally good person, what is the practical business value of crossing off these 26 enemies?
It comes down to sheer cognitive efficiency. Harboring anger, plotting revenge, and marinating in worry consume massive amounts of neurological energy.
It's exhausting.
Your brain is literally burning calories managing those grievances.
Yeah.
When you conquer them, you free up all of that mental bandwidth.
Oh,
You reclaim your energy, which you can now direct entirely toward your definite major purpose.
that brings up a huge transition point. Let's say a listener does the work. They build the castle walls, they reprogram the bouncer with autosuggestion, they close the door on past failures, and they cross off the 26 enemies.
They've done a work.
Right. They have eradicated fear and worry. They now have this incredibly quiet, incredibly empty space in their mind. What do they fill it with?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because Hill was notoriously driven, where does the high-octane fuel come from?
Hill identifies two primary sources of fuel to drive this newly optimized machine. And the first one is a concept that historically raises a lot of eyebrows.
Okay.
He calls it sex transmutation.
Yeah, that term carries a lot of baggage. We need to be incredibly precise about what he actually means here, because it's very easy to misinterpret.
Absolutely. Hill observed through decades of studying highly successful people that they were almost always individuals with profound biological drive and high physical passion.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the key differentiator was that they didn't dissipate that raw energy purely in physical ways.
So what do they do with it?
Sex transmutation is the psychological discipline of taking that intense, driving physical desire and consciously shifting it, transmuting it into creative, business, or intellectual energy.
Oh, okay.
It is recognizing that biological drive is just raw power, and you get to choose where to aim it.
Give me a concrete example of how someone actually does that in the real world.
Hill points to Dr. Elmer Gates, who is a prolific inventor and recognized genius of the era.
What did he do?
Corporations would literally put Dr. Gates on retainer just to sit for ideas.
Tip for ideas.
Yeah. When he was faced with a complex scientific problem, he wouldn't just stare at a chalkboard. He would go into a soundproof room, turn off the lights, and completely quiet his conscious mind.
Okay.
Then he would consciously redirect his transmuted biological drive to achieve a state of heightened intuition.
Wow.
He used that redirected passion to power his subconscious processing, essentially acting as a human supercomputer to solve problems his conscious mind couldn't crack.
Let me see if I can ground that in a mechanical metaphor.
Let's hear it.
Think of human biological drive like a massive steam engine on a train.
Okay, I like this.
If you just leave the whistle valve open, the steam blasts out. It makes a ton of noise. It might be thrilling for a few seconds, but the steam vanishes into the air and the train doesn't move an inch.
Right.
Sex transmutation is the discipline of closing that whistle valve. You don't get rid of the fire and you don't lose the pressure. You capture that exact same heat and you route it directly to the pistons to turn the wheels and drive the entire train forward up the mountain.
That is an exceptional analogy. You are never suppressing the energy. Suppression just leads to neurosis.
Right.
You are harnessing it.
Right.
But Hill is also realistic. Even with perfectly harnessed internal fuel, you are still limited by the processing power of your own single brain.
Which brings us to the second source of drive.
Yes, the mastermind group.
Now, a lot of people think they know what a mastermind is. They think it's a networking breakfast where you swap business cards and share tips.
That is a fundamental misunderstanding of Hill's concept.
So what is it really?
Well, Hill studied giants like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Andrew Carnegie. He realized these men were not polymaths who knew everything about every subject.
They didn't have to be.
Right. Their genius lay in surrounding themselves with brilliant complementary allies. Hill defines a mastermind group as the blending of two or more minds in a spirit of perfect harmony for a single definite purpose.
What happens when you achieve that perfect harmony? Like, why is it different than just a standard team working on a project?
Because of cognitive synergy. Hill believed that when you bring minds together without ego, without internal competition, they literally create a third, invisible, and vastly more powerful entity, the mastermind.
Oh, so the sum is greater than the parts.
Exactly. He even ventured into the idea of thought vibrations, suggesting that the human brain broadcasts and receives ethereal frequencies.
Frequencies again.
Right. By aligning with a mastermind group, you tune your cognitive receiver to the frequencies of the other members, gaining instantaneous access to their subconscious processing and intuition.
I struggle a bit with the ethereal frequencies idea, to be honest.
Sure, it's definitely out there.
But even if we strip away the metaphysical language, the practical reality is undeniable.
How so?
If you have 3 experts stress testing an idea with zero ego, the resulting strategy is going to be infinitely superior to what one person could generate alone in a vacuum. It is literally a massive external processor.
Precisely. You have the transmuted internal energy driving the engine, and the mastermind group acting as an external supercomputer multiplying your efforts.
It's an unbelievable combination for accumulating vast financial wealth.
It really is.
But if we pull all the way back to the core premise of this entire deep dive, we have to look at the title again. Grow Rich with Peace of Mind.
Right, the peace of mind part is crucial.
Hill warns that you can perfectly execute the autosuggestion, harness your transmutation, build a flawless mastermind, accumulate $1 billion, and, still end up miserable.
The golden prison we talked about at the very beginning.
Exactly. So how do we avoid that?
To protect against that, Hill outlines what he calls the 12 great riches of life. And the hierarchy of this list is the most revealing part of the entire book.
Okay, what's number 1?
Number 1 is a positive mental attitude. Number 2 is sound physical health. Number 3 is harmony in human relations.
What else is on there?
The list continues with things like freedom from fear, the hope of future achievement, the capacity for applied faith, and a willingness to share your blessings.
Wait, where does actual literal money fall on that list of 12?
Money is placed dead last. It is number 12.
Number 12.
Yes. Hill is not a hypocrite. He openly acknowledges that money is vital. It buys freedom, it removes the crushing stress of poverty, and it provides options.
Right, you need it.
But it is only one component of wealth. His ultimate warning is this: if you sacrifice the first 11 riches, if you destroy your health and alienate your family just to secure number 12, you have failed the game of life.
True wealth is the integration of all 12. So, if we synthesize all of this, how do we hold that tension? How do you maintain that intense, driving ambition to build and create while simultaneously protecting the tranquility of your peace of mind?
Hill offers a final, incredibly grounding mantra near the end of the book. It is a cosmic perspective meant to serve as an ultimate pressure release valve.
What's the mantra?
He tells the reader to remember that ultimately nothing matters.
Ultimately, nothing matters. That borders on pure nihilism.
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
Why would a success philosopher tell you nothing matters?
Because he knows the extreme danger of obsession. When we get too wrapped up in building our tiny empires, when we lose sleep over a delayed contract, or become consumed with rage over a competitor's move, we lose our peace.
We start making decisions based on fear and ego.
Exactly. By stepping back and reminding ourselves that ultimately nothing matters, that we are momentary guests on a tiny rock spinning through infinite space, it instantly cuts our daily anxieties down to scale.
Oh, that's a huge relief, honestly.
It is not an excuse to stop striving. It is a reminder not to let your achievements become a prison of stress. We're only here for a little while, so we might as well enjoy the journey, build something beautiful, and act with grace.
You hustle, you create, you harness your energy, but you hold the outcome loosely. You don't let the pursuit own your identity.
That delicate balance is the true essence of peace of mind. It is the one form of wealth without which you cannot truly be wealthy.
We really have to give an enormous amount of credit to Napoleon Hill for this work.
Oh, absolutely.
To write a monumentally famous book like Think and Grow Rich, to watch the entire world apply those principles, to live through the devastating peaks and valleys of his own life, and then to have the humility and profound wisdom at 84 years old to come back and say, wait, there is a second half to this equation.
Yeah, here is how you actually survive and enjoy the success.
Exactly. It is timeless, essential wisdom.
It truly functions as the graduate course to his earlier philosophy.
It really does. Now, for everyone listening, if you want to keep taking these masterclasses and unpacking these deep dives with us, please make sure you hit subscribe on the show.
Yes, definitely subscribe.
And I would love for you to drop a comment or leave a review sharing your biggest takeaway from this conversation. Are you going to rethink your internal bouncer? Are you going to start crossing off the 26 enemies? Let us know what resonated.
There is so much practical architecture here to apply to your day immediately.
There absolutely is. And I want to leave you with one final lingering question to ponder as you step back into your life today. We talked about Emerson's law of compensation, the idea that every act of giving freely sets up an inevitable universal return.
Right.
If that is truly an eternal law running silently in the background of your life right now, think about your recent actions. Think about your unseen moments of generosity or the times you served someone without expecting a reward. What invisible debt is the universe currently preparing to pay you back for?